Keen, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch.
Thank you for joining us for another week. We have another very special guest that Elisa's going to introduce.
Yes, I'm so excited to bring to you one of my favorite humans, Dr. Ebony Butler, who is here today and is going to be talking with us about all things positive relationships with food, body image, all of this great stuff as it relates to Black and brown women. She is phenomenal. And so, Dr. Ebony, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited. I'm just ready to start this conversation. I feel like we're chatting.
Yes, exactly. That's how we want you to feel. No, we really appreciate you for joining us. I'm going to try not to take this as a personal therapy session. So, and really just have a conversation and interview you and not give all my stories. But can you tell us a bit about, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about the work that you do and why you are so passionate about it?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed psychologist in Texas, and a lot of my work centers around helping Black and brown women recover from trauma, be it trauma that's happened at the hands of somebody else, trauma that we all just experience intergenerationally, epigenetically, just a lot of the things that we carry in our bodies that need to be worked out. Helping us find our voice again as it relates to that, helping us stand in power, and helping us kind of figure out what it is that we want as we redefine ourselves, find our power, how to ask for what we want in relationships, how to have relationships with ourselves, how to communicate, how to take care of ourselves, all of that great stuff that a lot of people don't realize comes with trauma recovery, is learning who you are again. I'm also a food relationship strategist, which means that I work with people to help them define their relationship with food, how to have a healthy relationship with food. I actually got here because I was a weight loss coach before.
Oh, okay.
And being a weight loss coach, because I had lost weight, I was like, oh, I'm going to help other women do the same thing that I did. But through that journey, I learned that it's actually really oppressive, and is actually really oppressive to folks who look like me. And that the entire basis of diet culture and the entire foundation of diet culture is actually rooted in anti-Blackness, and that I can't continue to be an oppressor of people who look like me. So I said, what can I do to blend what I know about psychology with what I know about food? And I started to dive deeper, and I said, you know what? We have a relationship with everything. We have a relationship with our hair, with our cars, with our clothes, with our, appearance, like all of these things. So we definitely have a relationship with food, and let's get to the root of that, because I think that helping us build a relationship with food is going to help us stand, I guess, in more power in this world and in our bodies. Because we use the food is the central part of a lot of our lives. So if we can understand that relationship, I think that we can understand a lot of the relationships that we have in our lives. So that's how I ended up with the term food relationship strategist. I actually made it up.
Nice.
I don't want to be a wellness coach. I don't want to be a weight loss coach. I don't want to be any type of coach. I want to be a strategist, because that puts both of us in the power seat and not just one person knowing everything about a particular subject.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and that's how I found out about your work. Actually, I learned that food is not bae, because Dr. Ebony has a podcast also called Food is Not Bae. And I remember when I found it, I was like, I kind of feel like it is.
But what about, it feels so important in my life?
It is, but I'll tell you how that came apart. And I actually need to get back to podcasting. But Food is Not Bae was bae stands for before anything else. We know that bae is used loosely in our kind of culture, our phonetics, language that we use, but before anything else. And a lot of us have centered diets and diet culture even higher than we centered ourselves. So that's where the term food is not bae comes from. Is that, y'all, this isn't everything. Yeah. How you interact with food and the rules that we have around food, it is not everything. And it does not encompass all parts of who you are.
Right.
So that's what food is not bae means. Because you know how we get in relationships and lose ourselves. So that's what that was a whole play on words.
I love that.
Okay, so food is not bae, and you are big on teaching Black and brown women how to have more positive relationships with food. So can you tell us a little bit about what it means to have a positive relationship with food? And I like that you use the word positive versus healthy. Because I know healthy can be loaded.
Oh, it can be loaded, and it's heavily rooted in the wellness industry. We don't even know what healthy means anymore. Yeah, healthy has been associated with thinness. Healthy has been associated with just a particular body type. So yes, positive tends to be a more balanced and neutral place. Positive and effective are the words that I like to use. In order to define a positive relationship with food, we first have to define what a relationship with food is, because I think that people hear relationship with food, but they still are going to dissect that phrase using their diet brains.
Yes.
Most people are going to hear relationship with food and be like, oh, she's going to tell me what I can eat. Oh, she's going to tell me what not to eat. They're still going to hear it because we're heavily ingrained, heavily indoctrinated into the diet culture.
Yeah.
To have a relationship with food means having a connection with an object being food. A relationship is typically how we show up, interact with something else, how we show up and interact with food. What is that? What do we feel? What do we sense? What do we think? Right? What are the things that happens with us in that engagement, in that interaction? That's what we mean by relationship with food, not a particular rule. Having a positive relationship with food means giving yourself permission to engage and interact with the object being food in a way that honors you, in a way that honors your values. Not a rule, but a value, right? So that is what we mean by having a positive relationship. How do you show up? Do you feel honored here? And when people start to kind of hear that, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So I like to take it back to a relationship with a person because we can all kind of meet each other there.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know what that feels like. So how do you feel when you are interacting with another person? Are you honored there? Do you feel safe there? Do you feel heard, seen, able to be your authentic self? Do you feel like you can show up in ways that feel like your highest, truest self? Do you have room to grow in this relationship? Do you have room to expand? Are you accountable? Do you have things that you need to apologize about? Are there things that make you feel guilty? Are there things that make you feel shameful? Do you feel like this is a place where you can do your work?
Right.
If we're not in a relationship like that with people, we will tend to say that's not a relationship that you probably need to be in. This is the same thing with food. So a positive relationship with food is one where you can grow, one where you can make mistakes, one where you can be held accountable, one where you can feel authentic, where you can feel safe, where you can feel less anxious, where you can feel a place of reprieve and refuge. Right? Most of our relationships with food don't feel like that.
Right.
No.
Most of them feel shameful, guilty. We feel confused. We feel unsafe. We don't feel like we have power over food.
Right.
We feel like food has power over us. So that would give you signs. So if anybody's listening and they're like, well, how would I know if I don't have a healthy relationship with food? If you feel anxious, if you're engaging from a place of rules,
Right.
if you're listening to what other people say about your relationship, if you're letting other people dictate how you show up, that means that your relationship with food is not as effective as it could be.
I feel like that's a whole lot of us. I feel like it takes a lot of, let me speak for myself. I feel like it takes a lot of intention and work to be able to overcome some of the anxiety, like the anxiety, the fear, the confusion, perfectionism, right? Feeling like, I have to follow these steps, or I can't eat this after this time, or what have you. So I feel like that is the majority of folks.
Right. It sometimes it feels like we always talk about like those unhealthy relationships or that toxic relationship where it's like, I really want this, but then it feels like it's bad for me, but it's something you need. Like food is something you need.
Yes.
Which is why people struggle so much. It's other things that you could cut out of your life and it's perfectly fine, because it's not good for you. But when you start to feel as though food is not good for you, but you still have to eat it, it creates this like weird dynamic that you have with that. So I love how you kind of define, like, are all these things true? Can you grow in this relationship, right? Because that's not how most people will view a relationship with food at all.
No, not at all.
And
most of us are viewing it from a place of categorization.
Yeah.
And categorization being good or bad, therefore we're good or bad. And we're viewing it from a place of our worth and our value being connected to what we consume.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm worthy if I eat a salad. I'm not worthy if I eat a pizza.
Yeah.
Those are rules. Like, so all of us kind of begin to think in those terms. Like, oh, my values are even based around body size, body type. I value being healthy, which my understanding of healthy is skinny. And so do I really value being healthy, or do I really value being skinny? So if you're building a relationship with food, we really have to stop and think about what is it that we're using as the foundational understanding of how to navigate this particular relationship. Are we using mamas example of
Yeah.
relationship building, or are we using what we feel like is important? And
Right.
many of us have got to unlearn some things in order to begin to build a healthy relationship.
Right.
Right.
Unlearning is the ongoing thing.
Yes.
Right? Like
It's a lot to
unlearning
unlearn.
so many of these messages that are just so prevalent everywhere. And to get to the point where you can feel like food is something neutral
Right.
versus positive, negative, it takes a lot of intention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
It takes a lot of work. You know, I'm sorry, Ebony, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
It takes a lot of work, and I want people to be compassionate and patient with themselves, because we're still rooted in a culture that we're trying to break away from.
Yeah.
So we're still seeing the messages everywhere, every day.
Yes.
We're still going to have our body image days because we're ingrained with the information about what being in a larger body, smaller body means.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're unlearning, even as you're hearing this information, I really encourage you just to be patient and allow yourself to evolve and grow into understanding and wrapping your brain around this new concept,
Yeah.
because it is new, and you're going to continue to see information that says otherwise.
Yeah, and I think kind of back to the point of it being positive and negative and feeling worthy, or I would always say before, like if I really indulged in a meal, I'm like, I feel dirty, I feel dirty, I just did something shameful. But I think the other part to that, as you were talking about at the beginning about it, so much of this being rooted in racism and all of that, is how our cultural foods are also deemed as unhealthy, as bad foods. I think that adds another layer of complexity as Black and brown women about the confusion that we sometimes feel.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, the very essence of who we are, the very things that make us feel grounded, settled, at home, we're being told are bad for us.
Right.
And so when we're told that they're bad for us, but we still do them and we still eat them, we then start to think that we're bad people. Like, why can't I control myself? It's not that you're not controlling yourself. You're being called home. You're being pulled towards something that feels grounding to you. That's not something to be ashamed of. If you go home and you want to eat the fruit of your land, but you're told that fruit makes you fat.
Right.
Something's wrong with that. If you're home, I'm from Mississippi. If I'm at home and I want to eat collard greens and cornbread, but I'm told that that's bad.
Yeah.
But I should eat kale and whatever kind of bread that whatever they tell us that we should be eating that, right? What is it?
We said flatbread,
Ezekiel bread.
Ezekiel bread, right? I should be eating kale and Ezekiel bread. I'm like, why is that okay to eat?
Yeah.
But collards and cornbread are not okay to eat. But when you look at the components and the makeup of it, it's all the same. Kale and collards are the same. They're the same.
Right.
Actually, collards are more healthy than kale because they have more nutrients. So, but we're told not to eat it. And because a lot of this is the root of it is racist, we're being called to not be rooted in our culture so that we can be pulled apart from it, so that we can be influenced in ways that's going to benefit supremacy. White supremacy. That's what it is, right? And so if I'm confused on where I'm from, if I'm confused on what home is, be it food, be it people, be it tradition, if I'm confused about that, then the more confused I am, the more apt I am going to be to adopt somebody else's way of living. So if I create confusion, if I create uncertainty, if I make you feel like you're wrong, then you're going to be more likely to do what I tell you to do.
That's so
You'll have
powerful.
anything for you.
That just makes me want to go right now and get some of my mom's warm homemade tortillas with butter and a side of refried beans and just be in my power.
Right.
It's so powerful.
It is. It really is. And as you talk, like I keep thinking what you said about the compassion, right? The compassion with yourself as you're growing this relationship. And I think about like even some of these topics that we're talking about, like are you like what comes up for you, right? Because some of the stuff that you probably, I'll speak for myself that you're saying, I'm like, yes, logically, I get it. But internally, because I've been fed the same thing everybody else has been fed, right, around what's healthy and what's not, it's like, but you know, it's still like a little bit of resistance there. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So you really have to pay attention to what happens in your body as we have been talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to say, like, when I do these talks, people are like, but what about obesity? But what about high blood pressure?
Yeah.
And all this is we're conditioned to be skeptical.
Yeah.
All of this is learned behavior.
Right.
Obesity is something that we're taught to be afraid of, and the immediate cause, like the immediate result of obesity, is death.
Right.
And so people have come to understand that, okay, so but what if I'm concerned about people? Like, obesity is real. It's almost like religion almost, and where we feel responsible for other people's lives, and whether or not they're saved and whether or not they are right. Like, we feel responsible for other people's health. And the reason diet culture is able to thrive so much is it plays on fear.
Yes.
So if I can make you afraid, and that death, if you're gonna die, death is inevitable, right? If you're fat, death is inevitable, you're gonna die. Then I can wrap that up into make you feel like you're responsible for this person's body.
Right.
But the research is so skewed, and there's not a lick of. I was listening to the Latina nutritionist, and I really love her, right? She was saying there's not a single issue that has been corrected by weight loss.
Wow.
But obesity is always the thing that people say about obesity. And so I'm going to reference the Latina nutritionist. There's not a single issue that has been corrected by weight loss.
Right. And even if you're healthy, because I know for me, I'll go to the doctor and I would never forget this. I had lost like 50 pounds. I was so proud of myself. I went, blood work good. My blood work is always good though, whether I was 50 pounds every night. Everything's perfect. She's like, okay, but you need to lose another 30, 40 pounds. And I was like, but for what? Like, literally everything you're testing me on is telling me I'm healthy. I don't have any issues with, like, they say, can you walk up flight of stairs and all that kind of stuff. And so why, for what reason? Right. And it's just because it's based on this number and your height. Which
the BMI is trash.
I was going to say, I've never hit the BMI since I was in 5th grade. I've never hit that number. Yeah. So based on this, you need to be at this number. And I'm like, this makes no sense when every other scale of health I'm meeting.
Exactly.
Exactly. People will say, but you got that fat that's around your heart. It's the fat that we can't see. That's why they're telling you to do that. And what I want people to stop and think before they come up with all of these questions to refute what a healthy relationship with food is, to refute anything that's new to them, is to ask yourself, why, one, do you feel the urge to come back with that type of rhetoric? Two, what emotions does that bring up in you? Does that make you anxious? Because it could be that you have to reckon with now the fact that what you've been told is not as true as you think it is. Yeah. And if you have to come to terms with that, you have to come to terms with a lot of other truths.
Right, that's right.
And people may not be ready for that. So before people come up with all the questions that are rooted in diet culture, I really want you to stop and think, like, why do I feel the need to say that? What in me is being triggered? And why do I feel such the urgency to have this debate, or to offer old information to new information? Because it's usually something about them.
Like, why do people always have to have a comment around anything you do? I've had friends that went vegan, and it's like, well, what about this and what about that? And they're like, well, when I was eating cheeseburgers and pizza, you want to ask me what about this and what about my nutritional intake? Like, why are you concerned about it now that I decided to eat more vegetables? So people just often automatically, like you said, it's the skepticism, right? It's automatic, like, oh, what's that? I don't like that. Why are you doing it? But what about all these other things that I probably never thought about before? But because you said, this is not my relationship with food, this is what I'm choosing to do, now you are overly concerned about things that what an issue before. Right.
And there's so much conflicting information and misinformation, and you throw some statistics on something and say that it came from this research or what have you, and most people don't really take the time to maybe critically think about, well, what is this research that you did, and who was tested, and what are the standards, and we just take that as truth.
Especially when we know that Black people aren't necessarily, or Black and brown people aren't necessarily included in the research that's put out there. So yeah.
And Black and brown people usually aren't provided the tools and resources to be able to think critically about research. We research is done, and this is one of the reasons why I actually stopped going to academic conferences that are kind of within my industry, because that information really never gets to who it's supposed to get to. That information really never gets to the Black and brown communities. You're doing research on Black and brown people, but it never is disseminated to the communities that it needs to be disseminated to. Those conferences actually just disseminate information amongst colleagues.
Yeah.
So actually, we're not taught how to think critically about research.
Right.
We're just taught to take research at face value.
Right.
And we're taught to believe that it's true. So we don't have any other way. We don't know to question it. We don't think we can. And that's the benefit of diet culture, is that they know you stick a number on something, people are going to be like, but I know.
Yeah.
You know.
I seen the what is it, the article heading. Didn't read the article, but
Right.
I saw the heading.
Yes. Yes.
So how does our relationship with food impact our own body image?
Yeah, so your body image, like based on what you think about your body, that's going to dictate how you show up with food. It actually doesn't happen the other way around until you've done your work around building a healthy relationship with food. So I'll back up and talk about that. So if I have an issue with my body and I think that my body is imperfect and I think that it needs to be perfect,
Yes.
what have I been taught? What do I have to go on about how to make my body more perfect? Manipulate it through food. Watch what you eat, because that's the only way that what we've been told works. Exercise and watch what you eat. Calories in, calories out. We all know what that means. So if I don't like my body, then there's something that I need to do to change it, and it's going to start with food. So usually that's in the area of restriction.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to not eat some things. I'm going to take some things out. I'm probably going to have a bare bones sort of diet. I'm going to be eating things that are really supposed to be clean.
Right.
Those kinds of things. I'm going to cut out food groups. So my relationship with food is severely impacted because I lose the ability to listen to my body. I'm strictly following rules, and I'm creating a dynamic within myself where I no longer can trust whether or not I'm full, whether or not I'm hungry, and I can no longer sort of act from that place. I'm only going to act from a rule-based place because that's the only way that I can shrink my body. That then impacts my mood. So I'm going to be anxious. I'm probably going to feel shame if I eat pizza or popcorn because we're categorizing those as bad. We're taught to do that.
Yeah.
So if I eat pizza and I know pizza has all these calories, then automatically the logic goes, you're not going to be able to shrink your body and be more perfect and desirable doing that. So my relationship with food is limited. I don't have space to grow.
Right.
I don't have space to feel safe. I don't have space to have a voice. So when I say have a voice, is my body is telling me that it's hungry, but I'm denying it.
Right.
I'm dismissing it. I don't have space to feel authentic because I honestly want to eat collard greens and cornbread. I want to eat a hot dog. Like I want to eat. I'm going to this barbecue for family, and I want to eat my mom's potato salad, right? And I cannot. So I can't be my true self. I'm at this function and I want to get up and get some more dessert, but my trainer says I cannot.
Right.
So your relationship with food is going to be one that's really dictated by somebody else. It's almost like being in a relationship with a person and asking permission. Can I kiss them? Can I hug them?
Yeah.
Can I go over there?
Yeah.
Like think about like all the time having to pick up the phone and calling somebody. Can I call them right now? Can I text them right now? Can I kiss them right now? Can I let them rub my back right now? Can I let them hold my hand? What do people say about that?
Right.
You know, can I wear this shirt around them? So if you think about that, you're like, girl, I don't want to be in that kind of relationship. So how we feel about our bodies is going to create that type of dynamic. And then when you do your relationship work, though, on the other side of that, you'll say, you know what? I know there are some things I want to change about my body. This is probably going to be a slow process, and I'm going to allow myself to have what I want, say yes when I need to, say no when I need to, and I'm not going to beat myself up or shame myself when I eat the things that I want to eat.
Right.
That process is a lot more comfortable when you do it from that standpoint. Because I'm not saying you can't change your body. What I'm saying is when we do it from a rule-based perspective, we're severely that's not the word I want to use. When we do it from a rule-based perspective, we're creating a negative relationship with food versus a positive.
Yeah.
When we work on our healthy relationship with food, then we can change our bodies, and who knows, we may not even want to change it the way we thought we wanted to.
Right.
We may have thought we wanted to lose 25 pounds or have a flat stomach. We're like, you know what? Having a flat stomach means I can't eat anything but air. I don't want that kind of life. I don't want that kind of life. So this is good enough for me right now. And so we work backwards rather than how we've been taught. You will find that you are probably a lot more permissible about things about your body that you normally wouldn't be.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying is what I feel like we do a lot in therapy in general is like getting, like, you have the answers, getting more in touch with yourself, honoring what you know and what you feel. And if, am I hungry? Am I full? Like really being in touch with your body and being in touch with what you're feeling versus just going off of the rules of what you're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think being able to have a better relationship with food, really what you're saying is about starting to question some of the thoughts that we're having. Right. So somebody who is looking to improve their relationship with food, what would you say is the most important first step?
Yeah, the most important first step, I think, is just to observe. It doesn't matter who comes to me. When they come to me after the first session, we're talking about observation because we need data. We need to take in data, like observe what is happening, observe your food rules, just observe yourself over the next week or two. Really document, really take a look at how does diet culture show up in your own life? Because from that point, we're going to be able to make the specific changes that you need to make. Because what we don't want to happen is for you to then also adopt my ways of having a relationship with food. We want you to adopt your own, right? So observe how it shows up. Well, girl, I didn't even know. Like, I go to the grocery store, I didn't even know that I have all these rules around what not to get. I didn't even know that I was going in looking at the packages so much. Like, I'm noticing that I'm doing that. So now we have more data to work with. So the first step is just observation, observe. The next one is take the lowest hanging fruit. What's the thing that you can do with a little bit of ease that's not going to significantly disrupt your entire life? Most people want to go in and change everything all of a sudden. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's not going to work. What's the lowest hanging fruit? Maybe the next thing to do is to think about the messages that I learned early on from my family of origin. Don't eat because the kids in Africa are going to starve is something that I was told growing up. You got to eat all the food on your plate. Make sure you get your money's worth. So people notice that as an adult, I feel guilty when I leave food on the table. Okay, what are those messages? Write those messages down in a journal that you use and that you're telling other people. Then we're going to start dissecting one of those a piece. The lowest hanging fruit may be, okay, girl, I'm going to go to Chipotle. I'm going to sit in there and eat. And then what I don't finish, I'm going to throw away. For somebody, that may be hugely anxiety inducing. For somebody else, that may be. Right? You're like, what you mean throw it away? I'm not going to give my money there. You might not need to start there, Ebony. You might need to start with just, let me just observe, like, let me just sit here. Let me throw a little bit away. Let me throw a little bit more away. So you're going to ease your way into this. But the very first place is thought stopping and thought challenging. I would say save the behaviors for a more advanced step, but check your thoughts around it. When you go out to eat with your friends, notice how much you talk about your weight in your body. Black and brown women do this so much. We get around other people and we're like, girl, but look at this weight I gained though. But girl, the summer's coming up. I gotta, whatever it is, our conversations are rooted in our bodies and what we're eating. So first, observe. Secondly, think about the messages. And then thirdly, I would say practice challenging the thoughts that come up that in your settings where you're in. Like we do with our phones, we go out sometimes, we put the phones in the middle of the table. Take weight loss and body conversation off the table. Say, y'all, we're not going to talk about our bodies. We're going to talk about what we feel joy about. Check yourself when you're looking in the mirror about what you're saying to yourself. That's where you can start. That's where you can say, what are the things that you're saying about your body? Why is that something that's a problem? Who taught you that? So a lot of this is mindset work. We got to start with the mindset. A lot of people want to start with behavior because diet culture tells us that we should, but we really got to start on the mental side first.
Yeah. I feel like I have so many questions, but we don't have the time. So
you're gonna have the book.
No, but it's really good information to, like you said, it always feels like when you're struggling with anything, food or weight loss, it's like start doing. What are you gonna start doing? What are you gonna stop doing? Versus really taking the time to say, like, well, what is my relationship? What thoughts and feelings come up around this topic? So I think that's good. That's a good place to start.
If people, Ebony, you know what? If people want to do something, the thing I would tell them to do, because I know we are doers. Most of us are doers by survival. Start adding in foods to your diet and don't take anything out. Add some things in that you've been saying no to and see how you feel.
That's a good one. That's a
I
good
like that.
Working
I like
through
that.
exposure therapy.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and of course, therapy with somebody like you is certainly, if we need additional support, something that we can do, which I think is dope. But tell us, we always ask our guests, why do you think therapy is dope?
I think therapy is dope because I feel like it is the greatest space to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel understood. I actually just left a session and my client was like, I just want you to know I feel so seen right now. And I said, yes, this is why therapy is dope. And this is why Black and brown women need a space where they can feel like they have somebody who has their back and sees them for who they are and not who we're trying to change them to be.
Right.
And therapy does just that. And I love it for that. I love being the client who feels that, and I love being the therapist who can provide that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So we want to give you an opportunity to tell us, why are you a dope therapist?
I mean, if you can't see it
Right,
already,
we already see it.
We see it. We know it.
But we need you to have yourself
Tell us, why are you a dope therapist?
Well, thank y'all so much. I really do think I'm a dope therapist because I do my work.
Yeah.
I can legit say I do my work. There may have been a time where I was like, I'm going to therapy, but I'm gonna talk circles around her and I'm really not gonna listen to it. But now I can legit say I do my work, and when I show up with my clients, I'm showing up as my authentic self. If my clients met me out and we were not client and therapist, they probably would get the same person that they get in the room. And I'm able to be authentic because I'm able to be myself, and I'm able to the work that I'm doing allows me to be myself enough so that I can show up with folks from a true place of professionalism and just personalism. Like I can just be interpersonal, right? And I feel like I have a great ability to just build rapport and connect with people because of that, because I'm doing my work and I don't have a block up of who I'm trying to be.
Yes, I love that. That's great. I think that's the first time we've gotten that answer. I love that. Yeah, wonderful. Well, tell everybody how we can get in touch with you. But I know you've got some very special products that you have out there on the market. Tell people about how they can work with you, what you offer, and the props.
Thank you. So I am always on Instagram. I love it there. I'm not going to apologize for it. So you can find me on at Dr. Ebony online on Instagram. I'm trying to occupy the TikTok space. I'm Dr. Ebony there. And if you want to just learn more about my work, you can go to drebony.com. And then I also have therapy cards. They're called My Therapy Cards that I created for Black and brown folks to be able, especially women, to be able to do our work so that we can feel more connected to ourselves and gain more insight for ourselves. And out of that work, we developed a teen edition and a deck for Black men, Black and brown men. So go out, support them, get them, check them out, share them with your loved ones, and you can find them at mytherapycards.com.
And you have a journal.
Oh, well, yeah, and each of those have a journal to accompany them. I always forget about the journals, but each of them have a journal to accompany them as well. So you're able to document your work, and actually the journals, the Journal for Women and Teens have an assessment at the beginning of them so that you can understand and figure out where to start with doing the work. So those are great to be able to document your journey and be able to think a little bit more clearly and to be able to dig a little bit deeper when you don't know the questions to ask.
Yeah. The cards are great. I have them. They're very thought-provoking. And take them to dinner.
Take them on a date.
Deep conversation. You need to pull out one of these cards.
We're not talking about dates. Let's talk about this.
Take them on dates. Take them to dinner. I tell people all the time, I think that they're a great conversation starter. People have had girls' nights with them. They do retreats with them. They take them to brunch. So instead of talking about our bodies when we go to dinner, take a card and let's talk about it so we can have more meaningful conversations, because that stuff doesn't matter.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Which is not bad.
Right. We appreciate it. We're going to make sure to have everything linked in our description so people can find all of the amazing things that you're doing. But we really appreciate you for joining us.
It's so great.
You're an amazing. I was about to say something like, Ebony's are always amazing.
That is true.
And names that start with E.
There you go.
Names that start with E are amazing.
Yes. So we appreciate you for being here.
Yes.
Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you for everyone for watching. We'll be back next week, of course, with a new episode. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe, rate, comment, all of that. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts,
Yes.
Stitcher, all the places you can
All
find
of the
podcasts.
places.
You can also follow us at Melanin Mental Health, across social media, Melanin Health on Twitter, or head over to melaninmentalhealth.com to find a dope therapist, dope merchandise, to find the previous podcast, all of the things are at melaninmentalhealth.com. So we appreciate you and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.